Hello there everyone, welcome to this Patreon discussion of the Boba Fett green deck. I think there is a lot to talk about. I'm going to talk about all the cards individually. I'm going to talk about the leader. I'm going to talk about the changes I would make, and I think this is going to be very, very helpful for you all. So please do let me know what you think, and of course, thank you so much for your support for the Patreon. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. So we're going to start with why I think this deck is amazing. This deck is amazing because, one, it is an incredible deck to learn Star Wars Unlimited on, and two, it just has very pushed cards, and that's sort of the reason why I think it's such a good deck to learn Star Wars Unlimited on. It's also very, very good into a metagame where people don't have cards, because as a result, people tend to play aggro. So obviously there's some element of metagame. So let's talk about the two things I think that make the deck so special. So that's the leader and the base. So we'll quickly move these in here and we'll just have a little discussion about them. So the leader effect is when an enemy unit leaves play, you can tap this to untap a resource. And then on the flip side, it's a 5. It deploys on 5. It's a 4/7, which is above rate, like super above rate. This should deploy on 6. I don't know why it doesn't. When it completes an attack, if an enemy unit left play this phase, you ready up to 2 resources. So what that means is, in the early game, you can always actually have an extra resource. So on your not necessarily on your 2, if you ECL, sure, but like that's usually bad. But on your 2, 3, on your 3 and 4 resource turns, you actually can have 4 resources or 5 resources. On your 5 resource turn, your flip turn, which is your most impactful turn and usually the turn that decides whether or not you win the game, you are able to have anything between 5 and 8 resources, which is massive. And the reason for that is if you use some removal while you are still on this side, you get to untap, then you deploy, and then you unflip 2 more. So if you use up to 3 costs worth of cards, you can then like deploy, untap 5, and then play a 5 drop, for example. And then every turn after that, you are able to untap 2, which turns a lot of your cards live, or lets you use a lot of your control cards, and then like swing, and then remove something, swing on tap, and play something. ECL, I think, is a game-warping base. The existence of this card has massively shaped the meta, and I think it's a card that massively rewards you for understanding tempo and understanding game, understanding your deck, understanding your opponent's deck. I think this deck, to feed back into why I think this deck is such a good one to learn Star Wars Unlimited on, is because it rewards really good Star Wars Unlimited play. And what I mean by that is, this leader, so let's remove the base from the discussion. The leader itself rewards you for understanding sequencing, which is the most important part of this game, I think. It rewards you for understanding deck building, because you need to deck build to take best advantage of this leader ability. And it rewards you for understanding tempo, and it rewards you for understanding tempo, because obviously, like, if you understand tempo, you are able to know how to get things out in a certain way and know how to deck build. And it rewards you for thinking ahead and thinking about what your opponent can do. All of that just comes from this leader, right? So this leader, it's a pushed leader that directly rewards you for the stuff that every player should be able to do in this game to play on a competitive level. And by that I mean literally, like, to win locals or better, you should be able to do all the things that this deck rewards. Because otherwise, you're going to get cooked by the players who can. And these are the most important fundamental skills. I would say the most important skills, if I was to like lay down the pillars of being a good Star Wars Unlimited player. Number 1, deck building. And that doesn't necessarily need to be like, you know, coming up with your own thing. It could literally just be testing a deck, you know, net decking list online, seeing what you like, and just making the changes until you're happy with the list. That is enough, right? Seeing the things you don't like about the deck and just changing them. So deck building. 2 is understanding the metagame, because that is also feeding into deck building. 3 is understanding what your opponent's deck can do. That feeds into the metagame. 4 is understanding what your own deck can do. 5 is understanding tempo. And 6 is understanding I forgot what I was going to say. But the point is, like, all those things, just and sequencing. 6 is understanding sequencing. So you combine all these pillars together, and maybe that's too many, maybe that's too much of a subdivision. But if I just went deck building, meta, sequencing, you get those 3 together. All of those 3 things are things that you must be able to do. And Boba Fett, it's sort of takes it from there, right? Like, your cards are fundamentally all a little bit pushed. In particular, the Boba Fett character and the Boba Fett leader are just above rate. If this Boba Fett character was a 4-cost, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. They'd all be like, yeah, that seems fair. If this leader was a 6 to deploy, everyone would be like, yes, that also seems fair. So take all that, and now we add in Energy Conversion Lab. And this again rewards that same stuff. This rewards you understanding the output ranges, the range that your deck has. This rewards you understanding the threats that your opponent can have. This really rewards you understanding tempo, because knowing when to Energy Conversion Lab in is such a skill. And you know, you add all that in, it rewards the sequencing for knowing when you want to ECL something in, and it rewards just the same fundamental Star Wars. So you get a perfect leader plus base combination that rewards you for essentially being good at Star Wars Unlimited, and that's all it rewards you for. And that's why I think this is probably the favourite deck of a lot of very good players, because they know they're good at Star Wars Unlimited, and as long as the meta isn't just hard matchups for them, they know they're going to see success with it. I would say that unless you are going into a super unfavourable meta, if you practice this deck and you get good with this deck, I'd be very surprised if you just weren't at least bubbling, right? Like, yeah, if you have just some really crap matchups and you have some bad tiebreakers, you bubble. But I think you should be topping, because this deck is extremely powerful. It's probably the best deck in the game on balance, but obviously there's some very, very good decks in the format. But as long as you spend time and you learn this one, you're good to go. So that's why I love this deck so much. I think it's an amazing deck to learn on, and that's a little bit of an explanation of the leader ability and the base. So now we're going to go through every single card, but first I want to flag something. And I didn't do this in the deck profile, but I think this is really important to understand. Your deck is not 50 cards. And if you haven't played a sideboard game before, you might not understand this. Because to be frank, like, why would you? You wouldn't have had to think about it. Your deck is actually 60 cards. Your deck is 60 cards. And you choose 10 to take out before the tournament starts. So what do I mean by that? As I'm going to sort of waffle as I sort this into hopefully being able to fit all 60 cards on the screen. So the way to think about sideboarding, right, is, well, I've got this deck. And this deck, let's say the minimum deck size in the game is 60 cards, and there's no sideboard. So I want my deck to be able to handle every threat in the metagame, and it has to be able to, because there's no sideboarding. So in this hypothetical world, when I take all these cards, and I organize them how I want to, and I analyze the metagame, and I look at my deck, and I put it together, and I cook up the list that I think is the best into the metagame. That is... And that's essentially your 60. Now, once you've done this, you have your 60 cards. Now you can turn around and go, okay, so now I know what my 60 cards are. Now let me actually think about this, have a look at tournament results, analyze, and go, okay, that's what I thought the best, that's what I think the best 60 cards are, but now what do I think the meta is? What do I think I'm likely to play? And based on that, and based on how favoured I am generally into those matchups, what cards am I taking out because I don't think I need them game one? And that is exactly what you need to be doing. That is how you are going to get very, very good at Star Wars Unlimited, is by thinking about sideboarding in that sense. And that's going to make your deck building way, way better. Because firstly, you already know what to sideboard in and out, right? Because you've sat there, you've put the time in, you've thought about the game already, and you know what cards you need for what matchup. You've already got a better understanding of your deck. So your sideboarding decisions are going to be very easy. You're less likely to run to time. On top of that, and I think this is very, very important, you are just going to have a better understanding of the game because you've had to sit there and you've had to really, really think about the meta, right? And that's something that I think people should value. You've had to sit there, you've had to figure it out, you've had to think about your sideboarding decisions very, very long and hard, and as a result, you are better equipped to go into a tournament than the average player. So that is why I think it is so important to really sit there and take your time when you are thinking about your sideboarding decisions. And that's why I think thinking about this game in that way, and all sideboard-based games in that way, where like, well, hold on a minute, no, this isn't 50 plus 10, this is 60, and I take 10 out before the tournament starts, is the most productive way to think about this game. So as you can see here, I've managed to almost fit the full 60 cards on here. There will be a little bit of overlap just so I can get all these on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm just going to explain all the card choices to you. I guess I can technically put these in here, so I might as well. I'm going to talk about why the cards are so good, and then I'm going to talk about the changes on there. So let's start with Greedo. Why is Greedo in here? In the early game, if you're trading, in particular into aggro, you are going to have one resource left open all the time. Also, a lot of the time, you are doing more actions than your opponent, and they're probably just going to take the initiative. Like most of the time in those opening games, it's like do an attack, play a card, claim. That's it. You're doing two things, right? It's not a massive amount. Maybe occasionally use a leader ability. Boba in those early turns might find itself doing significantly more than that, especially when you are using ECL or doing something like that, which is trading, which is removing your opponent's actions. So now maybe they only want to like play a card. So that's something to bear in mind. And basically, and even in the late game, you kind of just end up with this one untapped resource like a lot of the time after your leader's been removed, or after you unflip, or after you've untapped 2 or something, you can just have a resource lying around. So it's nice just to be able to toss out a Greedo. It's a 3/1, which means it threatens a lot of stuff. And it can potentially be a 5/1 if you high roll. It's hilarious to me that this card threatens the Sabine leader on its own, because if you high roll, the Sabine leader's dead and they just lose the game. So yeah, I think Greedo's a great card. I think you kind of have to play it just to smooth out your curve and just for the access you have to that, and to be able to contest. Having initiative turn 1 is so good in this deck into aggro, because it just makes your curve way better. Too Crafty Smuggler. This card is just really sticky. I think that's the big thing, because with cards like Gamorrean Guard, you need Gamorrean Guard requires another yellow unit, and if you play Gamorrean Guard out on 4 resources because you missed your ramp, then you don't have your leader out, which means it's not coming in with Sentinel. So having a really sticky unit that is like, if they're using hard removal on Crafty Smuggler, you're probably quite happy about that, unless it's make an opening. Is pretty good, because they can't use it on later stuff, and it's a bit annoying to remove this card. Because it comes in shielded. Of course, if they have the make an opening or power of the dark side, whatever have you, then it's gone. But again, if they're power of a dark siding a Crafty Smuggler, you're pretty happy. Make an opening is the best card I think Blue has into this deck on that turn 2. The other thing to note about Crafty Smuggler is in combination with Shoot First or Surprise Strike, you can kill a 3-cost unit or a 5-cost unit, and the card does not die. In the case of Shoot First, it doesn't even lose the shield. So these are combos to be aware of. And Crafty Smuggler lets you hit like really big stuff. Like Crafty Smuggler being able to hit 5 with Surprise Strike is kind of nuts, and Crafty Smuggler being able to hit 3 with Shoot First is also amazing, because it is just going to let you remove stuff in those early games. Another thing to bear in mind, in particular about Shoot First, is it synergizes very well with the leader effect, because if you remove something, like you kill something in the combat, the Boba will untap the resource that you just used for the Shoot First. On to Boba Fett character. There is so much to say about why this card is absolutely insane, but basically the big ruling you need to know about this card. Firstly, it's a 3/5 on 3. 3/5 is so good. Like it is so sticky, it is so hard to remove. 3 attack makes it just a little bit scary. At just 5 HP, it is so horrendously sticky. This basically like forces a Dark in Town out of your opponent if they're playing that, for example. The other thing you need to know about this card is leaders are considered to be in play, or leaders when they deploy are not considered to enter play. They're sort of treated as in play for the entire game. So what that means is, if Boba attacks a leader that is rested, that was deployed that turn, it will deal the bonus 3 damage. What that means is, into almost every leader in the game, every leader in the game that deploys at 6 or less, Boba answers, save for, I think, Krennic and Boba, which Boba answers with a Shoot First. So every leader in the game, by the time you are doing your flip turn, is answered by Boba, even if they ramp, which is absolutely insane. This card is so pressurizing, they have to deal with it immediately, because if they don't deal with it, they basically can't deploy their leader, because sure, you get one swing in with it, and then I'm killing it. And then you are losing the game, because if your leader goes immediately, it is really hard to recover. So this card is extremely threatening. It is a fantastic ECL target if you need to, if you just don't want your opponent to be able to interact with it, and you're happy to just like keep waiting for your opponent to swing with their leader, and then you just deploy the Boba Fett. This is extremely strong. Gamorrean Guard, this card is just really good. You don't always see your ramp, unfortunately, and this is by far your best play on turn 3, on your 4 resource turn, if you don't have any ramp. It's a 4/4. Why is it so good? Well, one, it's got Sentinel, so most of this game is played in the ground, so you can shut down like your opponent being able to do something, or force a 2-for-1, which obviously is good, and functionally means this card is serving as removal. 2, it swings for 4, it's quite a lot of damage. And 3, if you deploy Gamorrean Guard and then claim, you can open up your next turn with an overwhelming barrage that hits for 6 damage, which means you are basically board wiping. And then you're going to get an untapped leader ability, you can deploy, swing with your leader, and you get 3 resources to play something like a Boba Fett out, for example. So, extremely powerful card, very, very good, really good tech that has emerged recently. Next, we have got Boss. I really like this card, I think it's very, very solid. I don't find myself getting off the burn 2 damage regularly, but it does come up. Mainly you are using this card for its ambush value, and its ambush value is significant. This is able to remove stuff, it often survives, there's a lot of 4 attack units in the game that Bosk is able to just defeat, and yeah, super powerful card, very, very good. Not your best flip turn play, but it's a good one. 1 Cartel Spacer. This is for aggro. This is one of the cards I would cut. I think if there was, like, if I knew I was going into a tournament with like 7 Sabines, I would main this. But like, I would be happy playing it. But a lot of the time, because if it was a 3-2, I would love this card. I would 3-off this card. In fact, this card would be amazing. But because it's a 2-3, it can't actually answer a lot of the threats that you need to answer in space, because a lot of them have 3 HP, and a lot of them have 3 attack as well, so they kind of just clear you, and you're not able to clear them back. Or there are 2-3s, but they gain buffs on attack. So the point is, like, you can't advantageously trade into them unless you have a shoot first. And using a shoot first on a Cartel Spacer doesn't feel fantastic. Of course, if you need to, and it wins you the game, then great. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Cartel Spacer. I think I'd be happy to cut it. At 1 copy, it was fine, but I took it out between the 2 tournaments I played in, and I didn't miss it. 7th Fleet Defender, this card is a mandatory 3-of, because otherwise you just can't beat Sabine. Because essentially, if Sabine goes to space and you do not have a 7th Fleet Defender, you can't win. I do not main Consortium Star Viper, because I don't think it's needed. I think you're very favoured. If you just mulligan for your, basically, like 7th Fleet Defender plus a turn 1 play, you are absolutely fine. More important than that, honestly, is a 7th Fleet Defender, because Sabine knows that you need it exactly to deal with them in space, so you have to have it, because Sabine will just mull for space. If you don't see this card, Sabine's pretty bad. It's pretty rough, like, unless they go to ground exclusively. This card is a 3-2 shielded, so against Sabine, typically you will just ECL it in, and you'll just kill whatever they've played out there that turn, and that's a massive tempo swing, because they also basically can't go to space again, because you're just going to kill whatever they've played down there. This card is also very, very nice with shoot first into Millennium Falcon, so Sabine Yellow. You need to be very careful when what you ECL into Sabine Yellow, because if you do not have a way to deal with, like, you kind of just need to save your ECL for Fett's Fire Spray in that matchup, basically, or in any matchup with a Millennium Falcon in space, because you need to be able to answer that card when it comes down. Otherwise, you are going to get cooked by constant 3 damage every turn you can't interact with. But yeah, 7th Fleet Defender, very, very powerful card. Worth saying, 7th Fleet Defender, Crafty Smuggler, and Viper Probe Droid. These are 3 extremely powerful cards that all get answered by Make an Opening. So this deck is fundamentally just a bit weak to Make an Opening. This is a very efficient removal tool against Boba. Next, we've got Triple Fire Spray. This card's crazy, comes in active. You can ECL in the Fett's Fire Spray, resolve the ambush, and then resolve the when played to untap it. So the amount of value you can get from a Fire Spray is actually ridiculous. Extremely powerful card. Usually, by the time you get down a Fire Spray, you're closing out the game. It is ended that turn, or it's ended the next turn, because you've usually done like 10 to 20 damage, and you're just closing out the game. Triple Viper Probe Droid. This is the first card to get cut come set 2, I think. It's literally only played because it is a 3 attack pool. That is the only reason. Look at the card pool. It's very... I don't think there's another one. There's not another turn 1 play that this deck can play that has 3 attack. Looking at the opponent's hand is obviously nice. It's cool to get that sort of hand knowledge and that information, and it's you're never complaining about that. But yeah, primarily you want to just play this and then just crash it into any aggro your opponent plays, or just trade it with anything, to be honest. But you don't have to trade it into non-aggro matchups. You can just swing face, and they're going to see a 3-2, and they're going to go, oh, I should probably answer this, and they're going to trade it for you. 3 Super Laser Tech. I hate this card. It's a mandatory 3-of. I really, really hate this card. When I first started playing the game, I thought this card was broken. But now my computer's gone on lock, so ignore this. Yeah, the more I play this game, the more I'm like, well, I can't ECL this in because ECL is almost always better used on something else. So unless I absolutely have to, I will not ECL in the super laser attack. I will just hard play it, which is fine. But if my opponent doesn't give me a way to use it, or my opponent like removes it with like a bounce or something, I'm probably cooked. And that's why I think Resupply is just a better card. I think Super Laser Attack is fantastic into bad players. It's like broken into bad players, and it's very mid into good players. I will say, Recruit can find Super Laser Attack. Recruit cannot find Resupply. Super Laser Attack is a body. Super Laser Attack comes in active. Super Laser Attack can be ECL'd in. It is a better card, but its existence forces people to play around it. Everyone knows about it, so you've got to be very, very careful with it. But obviously, it's an extremely powerful card. Consortium Star Viper is a 3/3 that has Restore 2 with the initiative. This is one of your best space units in this deck, and that is really depressing. Honestly, this deck is really struggling for good space units. Outside of 7 feet Defender and Fett's Fire Spray, there is nothing. So yeah, you play this into the aggro matchup to just basically make it impossible to lose. Instead of 7 Fleet Defender, if you ECL in the Consortium Star Viper whilst you have initiative, it's just kind of cooked because you heal 2, you have something that's threatening a Restore 2 every single turn. There's very little they can do. Steadfast Battalion, this card is busted in the sense it's definitely way better than it was intended to be, thanks to ECL and Boba deploying on 5. Because essentially what this means is in any matchup where your Boba is coming out before their leader, or that they don't have ECL, you just threaten their, like, the moment you've deployed your Boba, if they can't just, like, keep your Boba alive, for the love of God, just keep it around and just hold the Steadfast in hand. Because the moment they put out that leader, like, you just kill it. You literally just go, nope, it's gone, Steadfast Battalion, ECL, Overwhelm, 7/7, your leader's dead, and you're cooked, because now I've got this thing sitting around. This card is such a massive game swing. It is so important in the mirror. If you play into getting Steadfasted, you just lose the mirror immediately. It's the most threatening card in the mirror. It's extremely important. I think 3 copies is probably too many though, and this is one of the changes I'd make. Triple Vader, you need this into control. Like, you just need it, and it's just so good. It's just so good. I don't need to explain why Vader's so good. You know why Vader's so good. 2 Reinforcement Walker, this is just probably your best top end that isn't Vader. It lets you stabilize in a lot of matchups. Like, if they can't out this card immediately, you are going to be drawing 3 a turn or healing 3 every turn, which is really, really good. It also, you get the flexibility of basically choosing whether you want the card or whether you want the heal. So the card's very, very powerful. Of course, it deploys on 8, so it's useless into some matchups, but very, very good into others. So yeah, good card. Rare that the game lasts that long though. Recruit. This is new tech, and this came in basically to search for Super Laser Tech, or like Gamorrean Guard, or just smooth out your curve, whatever it is. Primarily, you're searching for Super Laser Tech on your turn 1, if you don't have another play, or you are searching for one of your 5 drops when you've killed something on your like turn 2 or turn 3, and you have an open resource essentially, because you've like already spent some resources, and then you untap the leader effect. Very, very good card. I really like it. I would not change this to 2, from 2. Resupply at 2, this card's going to 3. Cartel Spacer is going directly into a resupply here, because yeah, resupply is just absolutely insane. It's just stupidly good, and as I say, it's guaranteed. I think having now, when I missed ramp in 2 games, I'm like, I can't. I'd rather just like resource 2 of these than like I'd rather just draw and resource than like draw it and just resource it for a turn than like not see it. So yeah, I think you need triple resupply. I think playing 2 was a mistake on my behalf, and I could have probably won 2 tournaments if I played 3. Overwhelming Barrage. This card is absolutely busted. It's a board wipe. It's buffing your units. It also enables some really funny kills. So I was in a situation where on my board, I was on like, so Sabine had basically like done all its stuff. They were on like 10 damage or something, and I had my leader, and I had a steadfast, and they'd claimed. They were tapped out. I was on 24. So the moment the next turn started, I was cooked, right? And I was like, okay, I have 7 resources here. What can I do? Oh, I know what I can do. Or I had like 6 resources or something. I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna play. No, it was 7 resources. It was 7 resources. I go, okay, cool. No, it was 6. It was 6. It was 6. So I went, okay, cool. I'm gonna overwhelming barrage on my steadfast battalion. 7 damage. Clear your board. Didn't matter because I was dying to a ping. I'm then gonna swing with Boba Fett leader 4 into your base. So that cranked them up to 14. My steadfast is currently hitting for 7, but it'll be 9 when I swing with it. And then I went, cool, I untap, and I'm going to surprise strike to smack you for 12, and just closed out the game, which was hilarious, right? Like 10 to 25 in like 2 attacks. And that's the sort of thing that Overwhelming Barrage lets you do. So you can find lethal through it, you can board clear through it, you can force your unit to stick around like a big sentinel. It's really annoying. This is absolutely ridiculous with Gamorrean Guard, as I already said, because you play Gamorrean Guard, seize initiative, next turn open with Overwhelming Barrage, you board clear, and you have a 6/6 sentinel. So a lot of decks are just cooked when they're facing that down. Yeah, Overwhelming Barrage is absolutely insane. Obviously, you need it in some matchups, you don't need it in others. Waylay, this card is insane, and this is one of the best cards on a flip turn, because what happens is, obviously depends. In some matchups, you just need, like in the mirror, for example, I am deploying first at all costs, right? Like I'm giving up damage the turn before, I don't give a shit, because when I deploy first, as long as my leader is not just going to die, I am then sitting there and I'm threatening a steadfast. And I've probably got actions to like burn to force my opponent to do something, lest they go like pass claim, and then they're truly done because they didn't deploy that turn, and I've sunk damage in, and they've just delayed a turn, and I'm going faster than them, and they're in the same situation on the next turn. So yeah. Anyway, Waylay is so good because you waylay, you untap 1 from leader, you deploy leader, you swing leader, you untap 2, and you have 5 resources. So this is how you get 8 resources out of value. You remove, and then you get to do whatever you want for 5. So whether that's like a Bosk, an ECL Steadfast, a Overwhelming Barrage, whatever you want to do on that 5. It's so strong. Surprise Strike. I cannot believe people are playing less than 3 copies of this card. You just win control games you shouldn't be winning because of this card. Like, seeing this card once in a game is basically guaranteed, so you only need to deal like 27 or 22 to them. But when you see this card twice, you only need to deal 24 or 20 or 19 to them, which is so easy for you to do, like going fast, right? Combine that with the fact that you're basically guaranteed to be able to ECL in a steadfast, so you're going to be doing some overwhelm through there. You've got an extra 2/2 pump, forcing some removal. Yeah, this card is crazy. This card is letting you win control matchups that you should be losing. I cannot believe you are playing less than this card. Also, this just gives you so much extension against like just dealing with aggro threats. As I said, every single one of your early drops can answer Sabine through Surprise Strike, right? Every single one. In particular, Crafted Smuggler is the best one because you only burn a shield. So yeah, you've got lots and lots of ways to deal with aggro. Surprise Strike plus Greedo lets you deal with a layer. Surprise Strike plus like Probe Droid lets you deal with a layer. Surprise Strike plus Super Laser Tech lets you deal with Sabine. So it's just very powerful. It's very good. No Good to Me Dead. There was players saying this card is bad because they were just like, oh well, you are tapping down my leader, but then like you leave it there and then you don't deal with it, and I'm getting it back, and I'm like, yeah, but this is a mid-range deck, so I'm just going to try and kill you, right? Like, this card is extremely good because you deny them 2 leader swings, which is probably most of their tempo, and then you just go burr and you just kill them, right? Like, you need to understand with this deck, like, you are on a clock. You need to just fucking kill your opponent. You are not a control deck. You are not sitting there like trying to like win the game on like turn 10, 11, 12, 13. No. Your games are done by turn 6, turn 7, turn 8. Like, it is over. You have won, or your opponent is stabilized and you're losing. You just need to you play a little bit of control in the early game, and then you just sink damage in the mid to late game. And that's what you need to do. You just need to win. And No Good to Me Dead is amazing because it just stops your opponent's like really powerful. Like, if your opponent puts down a Reinforcement Walker and you just go, cool, claim No Good to Me Dead the Reinforcement Walker, it's doing nothing for 2 turns, they're not healing, they basically wasted a turn, and it's not controlling, it's not destroying anything, and you're just going to sink more damage in. So, super good. Of course, No Good to Me Dead plus Boba Fett means that when your opponent deploys, you can just go, yep, cool, No Good to Me Dead. You don't even need to deal with it that turn, you can just swing with the Boba Fett into base, and then claim, and then just kill it on the next turn if you're feeling greedy, if you read them as not being able to deal with the Boba Fett. This card is very powerful. It also can just let you win games through your opponent having lethal through like like for example in the mirror, a Fett's Fire Spray, or in Sabine like a pod, an attack pod, or a Millennium Falcon or something, and you just go, yeah, cool, no good to be dead that. And worse into Falcon, but into the other two, it's just like, okay, great. So like now I just can't win, because that might have been how they were winning that game, and now you just bought yourself 2 extra turns to just push damage. Shoot first, this card just combos so well. It's extra damage, firstly. So like if you see like 2 surprise strikes and a shoot first, you've already done 7 damage. So you're starting at a massive like leg up. But on top of that, shoot first combos really well with all the early game cards. You're able to answer 4 costs in space, 3 costs in space, 4 costs on the ground, 3 HPs on ignore costs, I meant damage or health, 4 HP units, 3 HP units, or like 7 HP units through Boba leader, and through Boba character, plus 5 HP units through Boba leader, 8 HP through like Steadfast Battalion. Like it combos really, really, really well. And its extension, it just lets you remove stuff. It's it synergizes with leader ability, so it's free. It just costs you the action basically, like, and a card from hand. Yeah, it's just crazy. Cunning. This card is fucking cracked, and I can't believe I wasn't playing it before. Shout outs to the guy who got second at Kissimmee. I've forgotten his name. Reflex. Shout outs to Reflex for putting me onto this. This card, much like Vigilance, you read it and you go, this must be good, and then the meta developed away from it, and you sort of stop thinking about it, and then you see it getting used, and you're like, oh, I haven't tried that card. I mean, oh my god, this card is amazing. I honestly couldn't think of a matchup where I didn't want it, and I might put 3 in. I'm very tempted. Probably just going to keep it at 2, because I think 3 is too greedy, but I absolutely want 2 of this in the main. And that's what I think I'm going to put 1 Steadfast out, I'm just going to cut it, and I'm going to put in a 2nd Cunning into the main deck. Change of Heart is here for the control matchups. I think I'm going to put a 2nd Change of Heart into the sideboard, because I think just having 2 of them is really, really nice into those like big control matchups, where if they do something like just, if they've got 2 big things, or if they've got 1 big thing, you just steal it, swing into it, next turn, steal it, swing into it. Also, it's a really good counterplay. If they steal your thing, you just steal it back, and then like their turn is over, and you just get to swing for damage. And obviously, you get to keep the card. Worth saying, if the situation happens where they traitorous one of your cards, you change of heart it back, you get to keep it. So it comes up in that sense. So yeah, very, very good card. I think I'd like 2 copies on the side, just because it is very good, and you can always resource it. And finally, Emperor's Legion. This is just very nice into these control matchups. It's very, very solid into just being able to, and also it's good into the mirror, because you're able to just like basically keep getting your stuff back, because like they can only answer it so many times, and if you just for 2 just get it back, like for example, if they have to like 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 one of like your Vader or your Reinforcement Walker, and you just go cool, get it back, replay it, that could just be the game then and there. It's really, really hard for them to deal with. But there we go. So that is this in-depth guide to Boba Fett. Your best matchups are absolutely aggro decks. You fuck aggro decks. It is really, really easy to beat them. Just practice the matchup, understand that you just need to control their board, and then from about turn 4 or turn 5 onwards, you just fucking kill them, and control their board where needed, depending on how much damage you have, and just be aware of the amount of extension they have in their deck. Mid-range decks can be spooky, in particular the Han decks, just because they are able to ramp consistently, and also Millennium Falcon's really, really scary if you don't have an out to it. I'm trying to think of other outs for that card, but at the moment I think it's just you need to see ramp, and you need to see 7th Fleet Defender plus like a shoot first or something just to answer it, and then like late game you've got Fett's Fire Spray and you can just ECL it in and just kill stuff. Control decks are spooky, but if you go as fast as you possibly can, you can beat them, and you can't beat Vader Blue. At the moment, there's definitely tech that will emerge, I'm sure, that is able to answer that deck, but it doesn't exist right now. But there we go. That is it. Thank you so much for watching this video on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please do subscribe to the channel, of course. I'm sure you all are on Patreon. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, my patrons have had access to this for ages. But there we go. That is it. Thanks so much. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Cheers.